So this is a really, really fun game that I played, but the audio didn't record at the time. But I felt like you had to see it because it's a pretty interesting game. Um, I basically never get into a chase with the killer. It's the kind of strange thing to admit. And yet I was mostly in their face for at least half of the game. You see, even already they missed the first hit and they leave me straight away. So that's that is about as long as the chases get in this. And yet the especially for like the last third, I'm just continuously in their face. And I only ever get hit once, I believe, right at the end. And it's just kind of crazy how it all played out. And I think nobody did. One person die and then three people escaped. I think it's something like that. But I think the nurse isn't a super experienced nurse player, but they seem to know the game somewhat. They're aware of what we were doing. It's just their ability to hit wasn't always on point. We were relatively good at dodging. This flashlight, by the way, turns out to be the most useful thing I've ever used. Flashlights, often you never even use them in a game and go to waste, and it's a bad idea bringing them. And most people that bring flashlights end up playing the game rather poorly because they go for dumb plays and then die. um, but in this case, it worked out very well. So again, another one of their missed attempts. It's very much kind of a hit and run style killer. Controlling the zone, I think I go for this save multiple times before I actually succeed. The first time I go for it, I can see her there, and then I realise she's blinking that way, so I try to then go down, but on her second blink she appears there, I have to run back, and that's attempt one out of the window, basically. But of course, by the time I get away, she pretty much gives up on the chase. She wants a free hit, but she doesn't want to commit to anything because she's got a place to defend. So off she goes. And I think Claudette then goes in for an attempt whilst I head off to do another gen. It's quite a long game because a lot of us are up and close personal with the killer rather than doing gens, which is generally speaking not a good idea, but works out in this case because she's not super experienced. If you go up against an experienced killer, your best move always is to just make distance, get as far away as possible. You don't want to be close to them. The more time you spend close to them, the more likely that they are going to hit you, and the more value they get because you just don't leave their range. They just recover from the hit and get more, especially if they've got save the best for last and other perks like that. You can just ruin yourself and the team instantly. But in the rarer cases where a killer is not quite 100% aware of all of the moves that you're going to be doing, or not able to technically kind of outplay that, then sometimes it can be better to spend more of your time around the killer, which is what this game shows. This shouldn't be exemplary of how Dead by Daylight is. I will state that. I'll state that very, very clearly. This is not how most games go, and this is not how you should play most games. This is one of the rare occasions where this kind of aggressive play style actually is beneficial, but you have to really kind of trust your instincts. And this is the thing: is you notice that I'm not super aggressive here. Right, whenever I'm having interaction, I'm always getting distance, rather than going for that save earlier, where I could have still gone for the save, taken a hit, and then tried to get out of there, rather than risking getting caught in basement and wasting everybody's time. I leave, and that's because I don't have quite a lot of information at this point. I have one demonstration of her missing, and then maybe another one later on, and I'm getting an idea of the level of skill that the nurse has, but I'm still playing very, very cautiously, very sensibly. I don't go back to the gen that Claudette was on because I know the killer knows we're there. Instead, I rotate, which is normally the right move. But things change later on. And it's also quite funny because the build I bring is, of course, very well designed for that kind of aggressive in and out play style. Torch plus 3 perks that are all designed to help heal me faster. None of which I use. Those 3 perks, well, self-care goes completely to waste. The other 2 at least get some value here, healing, and later on healing people off the ground, but even something like Wig and Live Forever would have been far better in this game. But normally this build is quite strong, because it means that you can continuously make mistakes, recover from them as long as you're allowed to get out of chases, and just heal yourself up. This build, for example, is particularly good against hit and run killers like Wraith, Deathslinger, Legion. Well, it's difficult necessarily against Legion, because a lot of the time you don't necessarily want to heal, but because the heals are so quick, you can get away with taking the time to heal. That's what's nice about the build. So yeah, you can see here I'm playing more aggressively, I'm harassing. I was going for the flashlight save, but the opportunity didn't arise. So instead, I tried to make use of my closeness and sort of proximity to the scenario. I know she's trying to go to basement, and I know she's taking extra length to do so, and that's how I get away with this move here. Try and go for the blind as well to get her away from the other Felix, which, well, it's hard to say exactly how successful it is, but she doesn't get the down, I don't believe. But yeah, as I was saying, the nice thing about this build is it means you can get away with healing quite frequently. Obviously, the more people that are injured, the better because of desperate measures. But yeah, and I quite like the build because it has the kind of secondary use of being able to heal others quickly as well, which is what proves to be useful here. So it's not always useless, even if you don't have a lot of killer interaction. And it's generally good if you're using a torch, because it means you can go in, try and go for the flashy saves. If it doesn't work out, if they see, they hit you, but of course they still have somebody on the ground, they're going to want to pick them up. They're not going to chase you a lot of the time, which means you can then heal up and try again. It's definitely a good one if you want to be very aggressive and exploitative. Which is what I definitely am playing like in this game. I'm trying to get the attention the whole time. Because I'm here fully healthy, have never been hooked. It makes every bit of sense to try and get the killer's attention away from the two people that have already been hooked. Because if they get caught, that's suddenly death hook. You know, game gets tougher there. But obviously she's smart enough to realise this as well. It doesn't go for me. Claudette gets injured. And we're starting to hit the end game now, which is where things really kind of pick up in terms of the craziness that happens in this game. Up until now, it's been mostly tame. But yeah, somebody opens the exit gates, so we're put on a timer, and pretty much the entire length of this timer is a little ridiculous, as you will come to see. So we have one person on the ground, one person who just leaves immediately, probably the one that opened the door, and then me and Claudette trying to save the other Claudette. Obviously this is a waste of time. I'm just trying to mess with her pathing a little bit by getting a little bit of a light in her eyes to hopefully buy us more time to block. But wasted a lot of the torch, and I think that was probably a little bit of a mistake there. But anyway, we get her to drop it. She's worked out a mistake from last time. She messes up this blink sequence so it doesn't get a hit on me. I back off, but then immediately realise she's not targeting me. Claudette picks up Claudette using... well, no, nothing. She just healed them and then took a hit. Anyway, so now I see an opportunity for a flashlight save, but of course the killer knows I have a torch, knows I'm playing aggressively, looks around for me and finds me, and then misses. And not just misses once, but twice, and 3 times. I think that's all of it. And then she finally gets the... Oh no, there's 4. And then she leaves. Yeah, it's later on she gets the hit, that's funny. And you see I'm even then trying to mess with her, getting in her way while she's mid-blink sequence, trying to buy as much time as possible between me and Claudette so I can pick her up. And I get the pick up this time. I then run at her to try and mess around with her, trying to get in her way again, but she still gets the hit, unfortunately. Now this move shouldn't have worked ever, but the killer never checked this side of the gen, but it's a bit of a thing that you can do with gens, especially when they have this effect around them, which you get at the end game. You also get when they have corrupt intervention at the start of games. But this it basically makes the sort of size of the gen much bigger and also makes noise, so it means it's much easier to hide. There was a flashlight opportunity there, but of course I've run out of juice by now because I've wasted it before. So we have to revert back to this method, and the same thing happens again. And we're stuck in the same situation. I run around her a little bit to confuse her, so she misses. And again, she didn't quite expect to be right on top of me there, so she readied another blink too early. I definitely should have been hit there. That was a mistake on the killer's end. I try and go in for the heal, but I've mistimed it. I don't have quite enough time to finish it, so she then does get the hit finally here. I also failed a skill check, which doesn't help anything. But fortunately, I don't get caught out. Balance landing helps me here. And I get to get away whilst the other Claudette picks her up. And so then I opt to go out from the other exit that we opened up earlier, and I don't look back at this stage. I probably could have stayed in, healed, come back, but at this stage I'm looking at that timer and thinking it's not really worth taking any more risks, so I just get the hell out. And considering I was out of flashlight juice, I think that was the best move. I wouldn't have been much use after the time it took to heal, even with the build, so that was the right play. But I come in here quickly to spectate as well. and see what these two do. And it turns out one of the Claudettes has borrowed time, and that makes all of the difference in this game. As you see, there you go. She gets to take the hit, and the two injured Claudettes get to leave. Still very close, mind you, but one dead hard, and they're free to go. And so all four of us get out. One of which left early. So yeah, you can see I'm pretty happy by that one, the way it all worked out.